From Maine. Senator, good morning.
Chris, how are you this morning?
You probably know Senator Bob Corker has said he thinks it's not going to be long before we're arming the opposition. What do you think the next step is?
Well, I think the news from yesterday between John Kerry and the Russian foreign minister is the best news I've heard on Syria in a long time, because it's important to understand that what's going on there is a civil war, and then there's a civil war in waiting once Assad goes. And the real danger is that there are a variety of opposition groups, some of whom are pro-democracy and secular, and some of whom are the folks that we really don't want to be in control of that country and in control of those chemical weapons. So I'm very hopeful about this international conference. On the other hand, I think we've got to be very careful about what our role is. Syria makes Iraq look simple. It looks like a walk in the park in terms of the complexity of the situation. So I think we've got to be cautious, be sure we're going in on good intelligence, and that we know what our mission is and what our exit is before we even begin to think about some kind of intervention there.
Well, to that point, let me play for you, Senator, something else the president had to say yesterday.
In the end, whether it's bin Laden or Gaddafi, if we say we're taking a position, I would think at this point the international community has a pretty good sense that we typically follow through on our commitments.
You said, Senator, once Assad goes, is there any doubt in your mind that the U.S. is going to go after Bashar al-Assad?
Well, I think it's a question of, it's not us going after him, it's the opposition groups in Syria, and I think it's only a matter of time, but people have been saying that now for a couple of years. In the meantime, 70,000 people have been killed. The challenge for us is, what role can we constructively play in this situation without aggravating it? For example, people talking about arming the opposition, my concern there is, who are we arming, and could those arms turn around and be used against us in a couple of years? I mean, that's exactly what happened in Afghanistan. The same goes for this information about the use of chemical weapons. Is it really credible? Where did it come from? How substantial was it? Because, you know, we've seen this movie before. We've gotten ourselves into military engagements based on what turned out to be faulty intelligence, and that's why I just want to be so cautious. I think the one thing we can and should and are doing is humanitarian aid. I was stunned to learn recently that the fourth largest city in Jordan is the refugee camp on the Syrian border. That's destabilizing Jordan, which is a good friend in the region, and we've got to really pay some close attention to what's going on in that refugee population. So it is a very, very complex situation. And as I said at the beginning, this international conference to try to bring the Assad regime to the table, and it was somewhat significant because the Russians before have really been very defensive of Assad, and in the communique last night, my understanding was that there were some subtle changes in the language that maybe they understand that he's got to go now as well. And if that's the case, then maybe some kind of transitional government can be put in place. But we've got to press on the diplomatic front, we've got to press on the humanitarian front, and you know, we've got to be credible, as the president says. But on the other hand, I think we want to be cautious too, because it's hard to know where to stop once you start entering into what amounts to a civil war.
Senator Angus King, thank you so much for coming on the